Coming up on the 1 minute mark until airtime on the LSU Sports Radio Network. Stand by for your 1 minute mark. Coming in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Mark 1 minute till airtime on the LSU Sports Radio Network. Coming up, stations, your countdown until airtime will be your 30-second mark when the network will go silent. Stand by for your final 30-second mark until airtime. Coming in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Mark 30 seconds.
It's game week for LSU Fighting Tiger football. This is the Brian Kelly Press Conference, presented by the Louisiana Farm Bureau Federation. Back out on the road this week, the Tigers travel to Music City to face the Vanderbilt Commodores.
There are some things that we just have to clean up. They're very fixable. And if we fix those things, this offense can play to the level of its defense. If we can get both groups playing to that same level consistently.
Coming up, head coach Brian Kelly sets the tone for the Tigers this week and updates all things LSU football. But first, with a preview of this week's matchup from inside the Capital One studio at legendary Tiger Stadium, here are former Tiger Gordy Rush and the voice of your Fighting Tigers, Chris Blair.
Welcome in, Tiger fans. Yes, indeed. We're back to action, coming off a great win by the Tigers over South Carolina. Get back to their winning ways. 20-10 was the final score for homecoming 2025, and now LSU gets ready to go back out on the road in conference action, taking on a very good Vanderbilt team in Music City coming up Saturday morning. It'll be an early start there from Nashville with an 11 o'clock kickoff. So it'll be an early start, but very important game, obviously, as this long SEC gauntlet continues. But Gordy Rush, I mean, you got to be pleased. Coach Kelly said it was not the prettiest game. There were mistakes made by LSU, but he really liked the fight that the Tigers brought really for 4 quarters to get that win 20-10. And I think we'll start defensively. I mean, Lenoris Sellers, he's given people fits. He gave LSU fits in that first half last year at Williams-Brice Stadium. But to come away with just 19 yards rushing, Coach Kelly and everybody on the staff said, hey, look, we got to just keep him. The pocket may be wide. It may be from sideline to sideline, but don't let him get north-south. And obviously they got that job done. Able to find some pressure. Looked like in the second quarter, Coach Baker started getting a little more aggressive. They were able to find that pain point on the offensive line for South Carolina and really went after it time and time again. And, again, defensively good. LSU offensively had their opportunities. I know everybody's saying the score could have been this, or, you know, you don't have the fumble at the goal line, you don't have the interception. Certainly that is the case. What I do like about it was 30 times it was thrown in the air and 30 times LSU tried to get it on the ground. And a couple of things that I think we should take away from that is, number one, against South Carolina, they gave up 4 tackles for loss, 0 sacks. Now, when you look at LSU on the season, they had given up 30 tackles for loss. That's 7 against Clemson, 8 against Louisiana Tech, 3 against Florida, 5 against Southeastern, 3 against Ole Miss. Of those 30 tackles for loss on the year, 10 of those are sacks. So, again, take that away. That we'll put that on the quarter. But from the offensive line and the running backs, they ran the ball and stayed with running the football. And I think that's one of the big positives I took away from the game.
I thought it was the biggest positive of this football game was LSU's commitment to the run game, right? And so the Tigers ran for 166 yards net. Caden Durham had 15 carries for 70 yards. Jawan Johnson, of course, had the big 56-yard run to flip the field over in the second half. And even Garrett Nussmeier, very importantly, ran for a positive 30 yards. Don't need him to lead the team in rushing, but if he'll just keep the ball a couple times, I think it'll keep opposing defenses honest. And what happens, Chris, when you're running the ball successfully, the defense can no longer sit back and drop 7 and 8 in the coverage. They have to bring some numbers up in the box. And what does that mean? It opens up matchups on the back end. And I think that's what everybody fears if they're a defense playing LSU, because you've got 8 outstanding wide receivers and you have 2 tight ends that are matchup problems. And on this night, Trudez Green was targeted 11 times. He had 8 catches for 119 yards and a touchdown. And, of course, one huge pass to Kyle Parker, in which they had man-to-man coverage, and Kyle Parker simply outran his coverage and got a 43-yard touchdown pass, which was the big difference in the football game, the go-ahead touchdown. And I think that's the recipe for LSU offensively. If they can run the football, defenses have to play them honest. And if they give you matchups on the back end, LSU has the talent to take advantage of it.
Well, you mentioned matchups, and he's been a matchup nightmare. We've known that since his freshman year. And you mentioned Trudez Green, again, a career high in catches and yards. South Carolina had no answer for it. And what I also liked about the passing game was we kind of know, everybody kind of knows down inside the goal line when you got Trudez Green lined up in the slot or on the outside, that's probably where they're going. And obviously you had the big touchdown catch where there was no chance. I mean, if the ball's anywhere in the vicinity, Carolina had no chance. We saw some linebackers try to cover him. But I also like the fact that they used Trudez not just inside the red zone. He had a big pass play up the middle of the near side hash, again, where they got the ball to him. And we got to see his athleticism beyond just the vertical leap and his size. He can move and make some guys miss.
No, absolutely. I mean, you can use him all over the field. The knee looked good. And then one thing that nobody's really pointing out that he had a vital role in that blocking. LSU ran a lot of 12 personnel. Yeah. That's 1 running back, 2 tight ends, and it was Bauer Sharp that was playing an inline tight end. And so Green was often on a wing, and he did a nice job in the blocking game as well too.
Again, LSU getting the win 20-10. That series between the Tigers and Carolina, we can clearly say right now is owned by the LSU Tigers. Now, of course, they head to Vanderbilt. It's going to be interesting today, coming up at noon, when Coach Kelly addresses the media, kind of talk about the health of the team, because as you reported throughout the ball game, LSU had some guys, especially on the defensive side, that went out. And I know after the game he said, hey, look, we got to kind of wait till Sunday and maybe Monday we'll know a little more. So obviously that's going to be key, because as we get deeper into this season, depth is an asset for LSU, and you're going to try to keep that. You're going to desperately need to have that.
Well, you desperately need that, because this day and age with these athletic quarterbacks, you're running all over the football field, and you're going to get one in Diego Pavia, who's certainly an athletic quarterback, is that you need numbers. And early on, that was the great thing of this LSU defense. They were 3 deep. Now you're starting with Relford out. Jamar Cooper, we'll find out a little bit more about him. Bernard Gooden went into the locker room late in that football game. Hopefully some people are going to be able to get back and be ready to play on Saturday.
Well, a couple of shout-outs. First off to Kyle Parker, who we mentioned. Trudez Green had a monster night. Kyle Parker also had a career night and really stepped up without the kind of go-to guy in Aaron Anderson. And I really thought we saw Kyle Parker start to be a weapon that other teams are certainly going to have to fear when he's rotated in.
No question. Kyle Parker was able to come into Anderson's role at the slot receiver, and on that touchdown pass, there's man-to-man coverage, and there was a free safety that's high, and he's free, just kind of playing center field. And it was just a great route. It was a little rub route, and they tried to pick off defenders, and Parker got separation and then simply was fast enough to outrun the free safety to the goal line. And that's what you need. And look, this LSU receiving group is so talented. I keep talking about 8 guys. Chris Hilton's out there. Nick Anderson. Thomas is fantastic. Go on and on. A lot of people forgot about Kyle Parker, and Parker is explosive, and he can make plays.
Again, I think the big takeaway was you get the win, 20-10. Most coaches will tell you can learn something from a win or a loss, but it's a lot better to teach coming off of a win. And again, when you look at some of the miscues, I think schematically LSU looked comfortable. They obviously were balanced, as we said, run to pass. There were a couple of runs, and I don't want to play the game of woulda, shoulda, coulda, but the fact that they were a couple of shoestring tackles on Caden Durham at the second level, again, not going away from that. And one of those days and one of these games, and hopefully it's this coming Saturday, if they stick with it, he's going to be able to break one, along with Harlem Berry, possibly Caleb Jackson, and even Juwan Johnson, who at times ran good on Saturday.
And look, the recipe for success, looking at the Alabama game, is going to be much the same, and that's what Alabama did well. Jam Miller had a really nice afternoon. He had over 70 yards, I believe, in the first half, and what happened, Vanderbilt had to creep up, and then at that point, Simpson was able to pick apart the Vanderbilt Vanderbilt's secondary. They were very balanced, and they separated in the second half against Vandy.
Again, LSU getting the win. They go back out on the road. They'll take on Vanderbilt this coming weekend. Tigers picking up the win. Again, more importantly, moving to that impressive 2-1 in SEC play and still just 5-1 on the season. And again, each week becomes bigger and bigger. Coming up at the top of the hour, Coach Brian Kelly going to join us from football operations. He'll talk about what they saw on film and what they will try to correct and what they expect against the Vanderbilt Commodores. We'll find out what Gordy expects from Vanderbilt. Get a scouting report on the Commodores when we continue right after this.
In Louisiana, we love our LSU Tigers. When the band strikes up those 4 iconic notes, the fans go wild. At Louisiana Blue, we're Tiger fans too. That's why we've teamed up with LSU Athletics to bring you the compassion of the cross and security of the shield, so you're free to wear your stripes and roar. Live Louisiana. We've got you. Louisiana Blue, Louisiana True.
Proud partner of LSU Athletics.
There was a time when a person's word was enough. A time when a handshake meant something, and integrity really mattered. For over 70 years, the values of Farm Bureau Insurance have been rooted in hard work, faith, and family. In that time, we've seen the world change in many ways. What hasn't wavered is Farm Bureau Insurance's commitment to protect our customers' way of life and serve the communities in which they live when they need us most. You deserve more. You deserve a promise. Learn more at lafarmbureau.com.
I'm Richard Fontenot, president of the Louisiana Farm Bureau Federation. My brother and I grow rice, soybeans, and raise crawfish on our farm in Evangeline Parish. For a 4th-generation farmer like myself, Louisiana Farm Bureau is as much a part of my life as checking traps or harvesting rice. Our organization is more than 145,000 members strong, and we've been around for more than 100 years. The Louisiana Farm Bureau spans generations, and we want you to join our family.
Visit lafarmbureau.org. The Louisiana Farm Bureau Federation, the voice of Louisiana agriculture.
Champions make plays on the field and in life. With LSU Online, you can keep your career moving, earn your degree, and still run your own game plan. Learn anytime from anywhere and take the next step toward your goal line. It's time to make your move, Tiger fans. Visit online.lsu.edu. LSU Online. Win where you are.
Coming up, Coach Kelly addresses the media on this week's preparation. This is the Brian Kelly Press Conference, presented by the Louisiana Farm Bureau Federation. Here again are Gordy and Chris.
This coming Saturday morning, the Tigers head to Music City. They'll take on the Vanderbilt Commodores. 11 a.m. thereabouts will be kick time. We'll get things started on the network. Early start. Yeah, around 9 a.m. Be an early start for us over there in Nashville, Gordy. But let's talk a little bit before Coach Kelly joins us from football operation. It's the joke, and we've kind of been saying it for the last couple of years, but it's certainly true now. Not your daddies, not your granddaddies, not your, third cousin removed Vanderbilt team. This is an extraordinarily efficient job by Clark Lee since taking over there. It means a lot to him. We knew that when he was hired. And he takes a lot of pride in it, as you would expect, and he's really built a solid football team. And obviously Diego Pavia gets a lot of the headlines, deservedly so, after last year's kind of breakout. And he kind of, I don't know how to put it softly, he kind of draws that attention. I think he thrives on that. But this is a team that, as you pointed out before we went on the air, I mean, he's one of the pieces, but when you look at some of the other pieces on the offensive side and you look at this defense that Coach Lee has built, that's why this is a Vanderbilt team that is awfully dangerous, not just on a given game. This isn't, a trap game anymore. This is a game where you got to be ready to go. They've only played 2 conference games, came up short to Alabama, obviously, but it's a really good team. And it's interesting because I pulled all of the statistical comparisons in just SEC play. Obviously, LSU with 3 games under their belt, Vanderbilt with just 2. You start looking at offense, defense, scoring, red zone efficiency, turnover margin. I mean, LSU and Vanderbilt are right there near each other.
No, absolutely. And of course, the two games in the SEC, Vanderbilt, as we talked about, they knocked Lenore Sellers out of the game at South Carolina, and they were able to separate in the second half in that one. And then they lost 30 to 14 down in Tuscaloosa a couple weeks back. Look, I think Clark Lee has done a really solid job coming down from Notre Dame. Big part of that, he went and got Tim Beck and Jerry Kill from New Mexico State. They brought some pretty good football players with them over in Diego Pavia, and then Eli Sowers there, who's their outstanding tight end. Both came from New Mexico State. And then he did a really nice job of hitting the transfer portal, as did everyone in the SEC. I believe, looking at some stats, Vanderbilt spent about $4 or $5 million in the transfer portal. They got 20 people. And most importantly, they filled in some numbers and some starters they were missing on the offensive and defensive line. They got 3 starters on the offensive line via the transfer portal and 3 impact players in their front 7. And with that, who doesn't want to come play for Vanderbilt in Nashville in the SEC? And again, this is a very good football team that's going to play in postseason for the second year in a row. Clark Lee's done a nice job.
Well, again, when you look at Vanderbilt, and taking nothing away, they play the teams that are on their schedule. That's why I pulled the numbers from the SEC games. Again, I know it's a small sample size at this point, but, it was a sideways win over Virginia Tech, which that game was fairly close early on, but 44-20 they pull away. Opened the season with Charleston Southern, 45-3, as that score should be. South Carolina, that was a game where if you go back and watch, that was a contested game until late in that second half, and suddenly the wheels completely came off. To your point, Lenore Sellers no longer in the game. But there were some big moments where Carolina really could have taken the momentum early in that contest. Unable to do so. But when you look at scoring offense, and maybe this surprised me because, just at the conference games, you look at what they've done on the season. They're averaging 22.5 points per game against SEC competition. LSU right at 19.9. The defense, LSU second in the league, averaging just over 14 in conference play. Vandy fourth, giving up just 18.5. I got to be honest with you. When you look at these numbers, third down efficiency is a little sideways because Vandy is at 48% in league play, LSU at 28%. Third down defense almost identical at 41%. It's really special teams. Again, we haven't seen a lot of Vanderbilt special teams, but Damian Ramos is 6 of 6 of field goals, average with a long of 48. In SEC play, Vandy's only attempted 1 field goal. They hit it from 51 yards against South Carolina. And Grant Chadwick, who I think got burned this week for not getting Special Teams Player of the Week, averaging 55 yards a kick and a 71-yard punt.
Absolutely.
It's a big difference there. He's averaging 51 yards on the season, 6 inside the 20, 9 of 50-plus, where Vanderbilt's averaging about 45 yards. And I bring that up because when you look at everything else, you talk about hidden yards, you talk about every inch. LSU's going to have to be solid in all 3, and don't forget about special teams.
No question. Look, the big thing for me when I went and looked at the film last night of the 2 SEC games was that Alabama's defense, I think, is comparable to LSU's defense in terms of athletic ability, and I thought they did a really good job of handling Diego Pavia. I think what really surprised me has been the speed of their backs. I mean, they've got a stable of backs. Cedric Alexander is the leader. He played a year ago. He's been explosive, a lot of big plays. Young and Lassiter, another 2 guys that have had some big hits, and they've been able to get some really explosive run plays. So again, look, LSU has seen this type of offense all season long. You're going to get a lot of movement. You've got a mobile quarterback, a lot of misdirection, eye discipline. And eye discipline and playing inside out on the football is going to be key because everybody knows how fast LSU is. And I think LSU's defense, again, this is a good matchup for them against a Vanderbilt team that's averaging 22 points in SEC play. I think the big pivotal, the X factor, is LSU's offense can continue on the path they've been on, continue to run the football. When they continue to run up the football, it opens up the passing game for Garrett Nussmeier.
Well, the problems that LSU clearly had in the Ole Miss game was the inability to get them off the field.
Yep.
And it was some real costly third and longs that uncharacteristically this season LSU struggled with. On the offensive side, they couldn't stay on the field. They couldn't sustain drives. The little wrinkle with Pavia, and I still believe that pound for pound, Lenore Sellers up to this point is the most difficult dual-threat quarterback.
No question.
But slightly different in the sense that Sellers you kind of know when he's not extending the play to try to throw. He pretty much makes a decision to run. Whereas Pavia, again, you can contain him side to side, but you better be ready because he's not going to give up on the play to throw. I think that's the key difference in those two.
Yeah, he'll extend the play to throw the football. When you look, he has 60 attempts on the season running the football, but 32 for a loss, right? So he's scrambling a little bit. He's not as committed to the run. He will run the football a little bit. It's kind of a magic man. He will hold it and is very creative, is very crafty back there. So you have to contain him. He's also one of these quarterbacks, you want to keep him in the pocket. He's thrown 3 of his 4 interceptions when he's in the pocket, right? At 5'10", 5'11", behind a 6'4", 6'5" line, he's looking up, the nose of the football is going to come up. Again, it's nothing that LSU hasn't seen going back to Klubnik and Clemson and Lagway at Florida and certainly Chambliss at Ole Miss. You've seen all of these formations. It's being focused, keeping your eye disciplined, and doing what you do so well is just being athletic and getting after the ball carrier.
Again, coming up at 11 a.m., it'll be LSU and Vanderbilt. You and I travel with the team. We've had these early games over the last couple of seasons. I really doesn't concern me because I've seen this LSU team prepare for those type of early starts. So, again, I think maybe Coach will be asked about it, but they do a pretty good job whether we're playing at 11 a.m. or 6 p.m., in having the team ready to go. But obviously that's got to be a concern. The other thing is, last time you and I were in Nashville was during the 2020 COVID season, but go back to the 19 season where that was a home game in Nashville. I don't think that's going to happen. They obviously have improved the stadium there at Vanderbilt, and with the success they've had over the last 2 years, every country music artist and every comedian that lives in Nashville, they all seem to live there now, either there or Austin. They're all coming out. So it's kind of an event now where it hasn't been before.
And that's what I was going to point out. I was on the team 1990. We lost an 11 a.m. game at Vanderbilt, and there was probably 20,000 people in the stands, and you're yawning, and you certainly nobody expected anything about Vanderbilt. Now, Vanderbilt's on everybody's radar. It's sold out. They finished the stadium, right? Last time you and I were there, I was sitting up in the stands. I was the only person on the visiting side, and there was cutouts of the LSU baseball team that they put during the pandemic. I think this is a big deal, and obviously, Pavia's brought some star power to Vanderbilt, and this game was sold out a month ago.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Well, we just received word that we do get the time for LSU and Texas A&M. No surprise here. The conference office and their television partner announced just now, actually, it'll be a 6:30 kick, thereabouts, Texas A&M and LSU here at Tiger Stadium. So not a surprise.
Nope.
I think that weekend, that's the matchup for prime time. So pass that along to you as well. But it'll be an early start this week. And I know there's going to be a lot of LSU fans going because, it's Nashville. It's a good destination to go. No disrespect to anywhere else in the league, but, Nashville is a thriving, great American city. But it may not be as easy to go in there as a legendary coach said it used to be, famously last year.
I think those days are done. With the rev share now, and you get a good coach like Clark Lee, who doesn't want that degree to go to college in Vanderbilt? Now the facilities are up. They've done a wonderful job in building the facilities. They put an athletic training room, a new locker room, a nutrition center, all in that end zone across from the basketball gym. Basketball gym's a different story. I'll let you and Coach Brady talk about that. But the facilities have really gotten a heck of a lot better, and they've done a nice job.
Well, as we wait for Coach Kelly to join us over at Football Operations, we talked a little bit about it on Saturday night. You mentioned parity. You looked at the scores of the SEC games on Saturday. There were 2 games where it was, I would say, lopsided, 17-point wins. Outside of that, it was down to the wire.
Nobody's great and nobody's bad anymore. Everybody's right there.
Let's go to Football Ops. Here he is, head coach Brian Kelly.
Afternoon. Let's begin. I just want to go back to Saturday and just give you some of my thoughts on the game. First and foremost, I think we're 23-2 at home, and the expectation is success at home in particular. It's Tiger Stadium, and our guys love playing in it, and the atmosphere at kickoff was amazing. I'm not sure that it carried that way the whole 4 quarters, but it is what it is. We're going to play football no matter what. But what I loved about our team is their grit. It wasn't a perfect game for us. We made some mistakes, but we overcame that. And if you really watch the film, we competed. We had guys running, flying around, playing physical. one of the top quarterbacks in the league, felt us. I just really liked the way we competed. Now, our attention to detail has to be better. Our focus on certain things have to be much better. But I really like the fact that that compete, that mindset was there for our football team. Other things that really stood out after you watch film is that we ran off the ball for the first time with the offensive line. We got off the ball. Now, we got to sustain, and sustainability is will and want to, and we got to get more of that. I thought we did a great job in protecting our quarterback. No sacks against one of the elite pass rushers in Stewart in the league. He is an outstanding athlete, and I was proud of our guys in keeping our quarterback clean. So some of the real foundational principles of being successful are in place. Some of the things that allow you to extend games and get away from your opponent, they're not in place. 73-yard run, yet we bottle up the run the whole game, but we're not in the right place when we should be, and we know that. So that's attention to detail. That's staying focused. Offensively, the turnovers, those are details that have to be cleaned up. Our tough territory coming out, we've got to be much better. We've got to set up field position with first downs in those tough territory areas. We have not been good enough there. We've put our defense in shorter fields because we haven't been able to, get first downs needed in when the ball is backed up. And, of course, in our blue zone, 5-yard going in, 10-yard going in. That clearly has to be much better. So we know the areas that we need to improve on. They're all very much within our grasp of doing so. But we're going to have to do it over this next stretch. We're going to have to go on the road against Vanderbilt, who's a disciplined, well-coached, fundamentally sound football team, and do a great job in the running game. And so we're going to have to be better. Quite frankly, in all the areas that I mentioned. But the foundational principles are exciting for me that I'm seeing, and now we've got to build off of those. So that's a little bit about the game itself. We know what we're getting. Clark Lee, obviously, coached with me. He's an outstanding coach. He's a great communicator. He's process-driven, and you can see that in the way their football team plays. So it'll be a great challenge going on the road. 11 a.m. start. We'll get them up early and get them rolling. But they're number 2 in the SEC in points scored. They're rushing top in the country. And so we know where it starts with Pavia at quarterback, an outstanding quarterback. He's the point guard and makes it happen. Really impressed with Alexander's growth from last year to this year as a runner. He's averaging 6 yards a carry. Eli Stowers he's up there with, we're prejudiced because of our tight ends, but, he is a top tight end in the country. And again, I mentioned their defense. Hurd leads the team in tackles. Great safety play. Their edge player, Capers, has got 4.5 sacks. So we know, again, the foundational principles of their team is based upon, a strong process and believing in what they do, and they do it. So it'll be a great challenge for our football team. So with that, we'll open up to questions.
Coach, this week was probably the best you guys have run the ball all year. Were there any real adjustments or schematic adjustments? And we noticed that you guys were a lot more under center with your run game this week.
Yeah, I think it's just been an evolution. I think it starts with getting off the ball. I think it starts with aiming points for our offensive line. A lot of the things that take time to come together is starting to come to fruition, and so. The run game, as I said, has got to be central to our overall offensive efficiency, but it's got to show itself in other areas as well. So we've got some work to do.
Coach, with Garrett and the decision-making, is it a case of he's a fifth-year senior, he knows better, he's been coached this many times, or how much coaching do you still give him on some of these decisions and the mistakes he's making without paralyzing him through thought?
It's a fair question, Jacques. I think we're trying to balance this. He plays with a swagger, and he's better with a swagger, right? Don't know that he had that the previous weeks. Thought he was a little bit robotic. And we said, listen, you needed to be Garrett Nussmeier. And he was. Unfortunately, some of that comes with some mistakes. I think that's an aberration, the mistake that was in the red zone, and something that he would immediately say, I should have had my eyes on that safety. because that's my read. But I like the version of Garrett Nussmeier we saw. He was a lot more confident. He was a lot more active in the pocket. He, had an opportunity to run a couple of times. That's the version we want. We want to clean up those what I would call uncharacteristic mistakes.
What happened with Bernard Gooden, and can you give us an update there?
Collarbone, bruised collarbone. Very sore right now, but clean, no break. So this is a short-time thing, and one he'll have to manage the pain relative to how we go through the week.
Right. I'm sure through your career you've had guys like Diego Pavia who kind of elevate everyone else around them. Yeah. As the opposing coach, how do you coach your team to prepare for that guy who's going to bring out the best in his team?
Make him one-dimensional. I think that those dual-threat quarterbacks, if they can do both, you're in trouble. So we've got to really do a great job in the running game. And not to say that he can't throw the ball, because he can. They average over 200 yards throwing the football, and he's capable. But I think if you're trying to choose one or the other, he's going to kill you if he runs. So we're going to take the path that we need to be really good against the run and then put them in predictable situations. They're the best in the country in third down because they're in third and short most of the time. So we've got to get them off schedule. First down is really crucial for us. If we can get them, again, in second and third situations that are a little bit longer, we can be more predictive relative to the balance between run and pass.
And with Jamari Butler, what's the status of him?
He has an ankle, lateral though. It's not high ankle. And I would say that he's probable if we were to put out a report. We got good news on that as well. I think we got good news on all of the injuries that we had. I'll give you a quick rundown so we can get through it. Aaron Anderson looked good. We'll continue to progress with him. Caden Durham had a hip pointer, which was mild, but one that affected him a little bit. He'll be fine. Braylon Moore had a stinger, but under control. We took an MRI. It looked good. Paul Mabangar is making progress. We expect him to be available this week. And Nussmeier had a slight ankle sprain, not a high ankle sprain, but a medial, and we feel like he's going to be fine. So those are the top guys. We talked about Gooden with the collarbone, Jamari with the ankle, and then Whit Weeks is just from his injury, he's sore. But that's our entire injury report.
And then with Dylan Carpenter having to take more snaps, how do you think he fared?
Yeah, he was solid. Dylan is a solid player. He's reliable and trustworthy, and he's going to do his job. He may not flash the way some of the other guys do, but we put him on the field because we trust him.
Coach, you were able to hold Sellers to 19 yards on 22 carries. How important was that, whether it be schematically for the defense or just from a confidence standpoint going into the next two games with guys like Pavia and Marcel Reed?
Yeah, certainly, we knew that he was the guy that we had to center on. I think if there's only one thing that we would like to be better at is we've got to keep them in the pocket. These quarterbacks that get outside on us create havoc in the back end of our defense. So a little bit better there, but we were really solid in terms of stopping him from running. His longest run was a quarterback draw. It was the second and long situation they caught up, but I was really pleased with the overall effort.
Ryan, obviously going into the game, the questions were, how's Garrett going to throw the ball? Can you run the ball? You did those things well. You had the issues in the red zone, but do you feel those are more fixable?
Those are correctable.
Than the other ones that are more.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think the question is, one that I present myself with every Sunday when I come back in. Like, what are the issues here that we can fix and are really fixable, that you don't see them again or you don't see them pop up again to the point where they can cost you a game? The foundational principles of getting off the ball, playing great run defense, attacking the ball in the air, pushing the ball down the field were in place. Now let's be a better version of that as we continue to move forward.
I think historically people credit you for having great line play and tight end development, right? So kind of what you were saying earlier about seeing some of these tenets evolve in your offensive line. Do you feel like those foundational pieces are there and it is that refinement and that steady improvement week to week?
Yeah, we're at the point now where we can talk about sustaining blocks, which is simply a determination and a want to and a will. And we got to get to that, because if we sustain 1 or 2 blocks, well, we had 6 runs of 15 yards or more. That's a really good start. We could have had 3 or 4 that were of 50 or more. And we just need to sustain. I couldn't get to sustaining blocks if I couldn't get off the ball. Now we're getting off the ball. Now we got to sustain blocks. We got to hold on to those blocks. It can't just be contact and that's it, because those guys are folding back in and making plays. So we're at a next stage if we continue to do what we're doing, which puts us in a really good place.
Brian, I know of at least one team, but there was a team last year that went to Nashville and lost, and they were a big favorite. Like, do you guys talk about that at all?
No, we have a respect for Vanderbilt. You just watch the film. They're so disciplined. They do the things the right way. They're a hard football team. They're a mature football team. This is a mature team. They've got 5th and 6th year and 7th, 8th, 9th. I don't even, they've been forever. But they are well coached and disciplined. And so you know what you're going to get in the SEC when you play a team of that caliber. And their record now has spoken for themselves. So you don't have to go in and, hey, this is what you got to be worried about Vanderbilt. No, they know what Vanderbilt's done. They've got work. They have a resume. Now, it's not a long resume, but it's a real resume with the same players. So that's why we don't need to get into those kind of, hey, remember what they did to Alabama. We just need to look at last year's game. We won 28-21, and it was hard fought.
You gave Caden Durham 15 carries. Is there a positive thing in a running game when you give a guy 15 carries, he warms up, as opposed to 3 and 4 carries over 5 guys?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, if you can get a guy into the rhythm of the game and know that he's seeing it really well, that's an advantage. There's no doubt. If it's 3 here, 4 there, you're trying to find something. Right? We weren't trying to find something. We knew what we had with counter. We knew what we had with split zone. We knew what we had with the runs. It was going to be about, can you break a couple tackles? I think the thing that Caden wants to do is not get wrapped up by the ankles. He's got to run through some tackles. And he knows that, but he plays the game the right way for us, and that's why he got the carries.
I think most people have been waiting for that performance from Trey's Green for a while now. Just going back and looking at the film and looking at the way you guys used him in that game, just what kind of performance could that maybe lead to in the future for him? How he's going to be
it should be a regular occurrence. And I don't want to set him up for failure at all, because you still got to protect, you still got to run it, you still got to throw it, you still got to catch it. But he will be featured in the offense accordingly. And now, what does that do? Is it maybe cause more attention to him? If it does, then other people will be open that are really dynamic within this offense. We've got to get Barry and Brown going. We've got to find him more. He's a dynamic player. We just threw a spot route to him, and he got 7 yards after the catch. So he's a guy that we've got to feature. You got Xavion that's got to get involved. Aaron Anderson's coming back. Kyle Parker's not too bad. So you can imagine, what we're trying to do here offensively is, we want to get all these pieces into the game. And if one guy gets more attention than the other, maybe he doesn't get 9 catches, but maybe somebody else opens up the field for him. And that's what a dynamic tight end does for you.
Coach, it's 11 a.m. early start for Tiger fans going to Nashville. Any words of wisdom or motivation so they're at their best, so to speak, for game time?
For the fans, start drinking earlier. Is that what you meant? Yeah. I figured this was Bloody Mary start at 6, get going. For us, we'll practice on Thursday and Friday, because it's midwinter break. We have Thursday and Friday off, so we'll practice at 11 a.m. We'll get the guys up. We'll have pregame meal like it is Saturday, and we'll go through that routine on Thursday and Friday without the Bloody Marys.
Last week you talked about, in your career, what you've considered when you've made midseason changes on the offensive line. Have you and your staff given any consideration to giving Josh Thompson a try at right tackle?
We did, but we're willing to live with some mistakes out at right tackle because we think his future is so bright. So when you go into that whole process of thinking about it, do you thwart his growth of what he needs to see every day, he was really good against six and pass protection. Really good. That guy is outstanding. He's as good as I've seen. He is so quick. He's got a power move. He's got an edge move, and he did a great job. We've got to get him better in the run game. And that's where, at times, you want to put Josh out there. But we're going to live with him. And I'm proud of him. He's growing. He's learning this game. And that's a big part of this. You know, O-line awareness, O-line instincts, some have it, some don't. Some you got to really give them reps. And that's what this is about. He needs to play.
I think we all noticed a little bit more zip on Garrett's balls down the field this past game. Is it as simple as stepping into your throws, and does that really have as much to do with trusting your protection as anything?
You know, all of those things are part of it, but the bottom line is he was healthy. On Thursday, I mentioned to you, we have the ball that has the GPS in it, and his numbers were up from any other time during the week. His ab injury is on the right side of it, where he feels good, and he didn't feel any pain on Sunday coming in. So that's a really, really good sign for us moving forward.
With Cohen Eccles and some of the work that he was doing in the run game, how much did that really sort of help you guys the way he performed at right guard, being in there for the whole time?
Yeah, I thought he was really solid for us. You know, he gets off the ball, he gets hands on you, and he moves you. You get a dent, and he did a really, really good job. Now, he made some mistakes, but that's going to happen because he doesn't have a huge resume of work. But I liked his effort. It was really, really solid. Our guard and center play was the best it's been all year. And it happens in the triangle. That's where it has to happen. That group right there has got to get off the ball and get you some initial movement. And that's where we were better.
Is Vandy kind of the ultimate case of what you can be in the modern era, because we know what they were in years past? Is it, there's no 12-0 teams, no 3-9 teams in this league?
Well, what's the average difference of winning this year in the SEC is like 10 points. That's the average. It was 17. So it's top to bottom in the SEC, and it's the ability to commit. You can see what they're doing at their stadium. They're committing millions of dollars into their program. Starts with an institutional commitment, then leadership, and then the ability to develop your players and putting a roster together. All those three things have hit at Vanderbilt. And quite frankly, they've hit at the same time, all of those. And so that's why you got a good football team you're playing.
With Mansour Delane, has he been even better than you guys thought he would be since coming over? Like, has he taken another whole step into his game since he's arrived here?
We thought we got the best corner in the portal, and he is playing to that level. And, you know, you hope that you've made a good decision in vetting out all of the opportunities that are there. But he has delivered. He's purposeful in his work. He is fearless in his preparation. And then plays fearless with no fear in the game because he knows he can do it. That's a great mix for a corner.
Just the teaching moment that you have to have with Juwan, I think, at the goal line there. Like, could you elaborate the conversations and the understanding?
He was a quarterback running the ball. Like, he thought he was a quarterback, where quarterbacks have this instinct of stretching out to get the ball. You're a running back. You lower your pads, 3 points of pressure on the ball, and go through. It's a teaching moment. It's a learning moment. He's a smart kid. What I loved about him is he didn't get down in the dumps. He gives us a big 56-yard run later in the game, right? He's that kind of guy. He's unflappable when it comes to making a mistake. He's going to learn from it, and he's going to come back.
And with Mansour, what was the recruiting process like with him? Were you able to talk with him at all before
he came? A lot
of
pleases. Here? What can we do for you? It was a one-sided conversation, quite frankly. Mm-hmm. Once we had a connection where he wanted to be here, we did everything to consummate that deal.
And what was your kind of first impression of him when you were talking with him in the portal?
Well, I loved his football IQ. And I loved why he would want to be here. He wanted to be on a platform and a stage to showcase his abilities. And he could have went in the draft. He probably would have been a third round pick is what we had in terms of the numbers. But he wants to be a first-round pick. He wants to be the best corner in the country. He wants to be seen as such, and he knew that this would be a great platform for him.
kind of elaborate on that corner room, I guess. Just what are you seeing in Corey's teaching? It sounds tough, but it also sounds relatable when we're around him.
There's no room for wiggle room. It's you do it this way, exactly this way, or that's there's no negotiables. They're non-negotiables, and they're things that they want to do. Like he's teaching them the things they want, and then you can't put this on top of it because it's your flair. This is how we do it. It's non-negotiable, and if you want to play, this is how you do it. And the guys have adapted easily to that kind of teaching.
It seems like at least every receiver at any point in time through the first 6 games have had a moment where they've dropped the ball. Obviously, Hilton drops the deep ball Saturday night. Just are those things that you guys just continue to hammer in? Is it like just a momentary lack of focus, or what goes into the drop?
Yeah, I think it's just confidence. He's got to build his own confidence, in that he's capable of doing. Look, he can run by anybody. I mean, so you've got that covered. Now, just have the confidence that you're going to do it. We've got confidence in him. We keep putting him out there, or we wouldn't have confidence. We've got confidence that he can do it. Now he's got to go and have the confidence in himself, and I believe he'll do that. I mean, he's a mature player. He's a smart player. He knows he's got to make those catches, but we're going to keep going to him. Thank you.
Coach Brian Kelly, this week's press conference as LSU gets ready to head to Nashville, Tennessee, take on the Vanderbilt Commodores coming up this Saturday morning at 11 a.m. We'll take a quick time out, come back, some final news and notes before we send you on your way.
What a matchup we've got, folks. Just nonstop action. The energy is electric and the fans are all in. An intense game like this calls for a Coca-Cola. Crisp and refreshing. That's a game changer. Yeah, that taste scores every time. And just like that, they're back at it. Passionate fans and an ice-cold Coca-Cola. Now that's a winning combo. No matter the team, no matter the sport, everyone knows fan work is thirsty work. Enjoy a Coca-Cola.
There was a time when a person's word was enough. A time when a handshake meant something, and integrity really mattered. For over 70 years, the values of Farm Bureau Insurance have been rooted in hard work, faith, and family. In that time, we've seen the world change in many ways. What hasn't wavered is Farm Bureau Insurance's commitment to protect our customers' way of life and serve the communities in which they live when they need us most. You deserve more. You deserve a promise. Learn more at lafarmbureau.com.
It's 4 a.m. Monday, and you're literally sucking baby snot through a tube because she's congested. Man, that's love. And if you love her that much, love her enough to make sure she's buckled in the right car seat. To make sure your child's in the right seat for their age and size, visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Show them you love them. Keep them safe. Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
For him, it wasn't the cancer that almost took his life. It was an infection his body wasn't strong enough to fight. Antibiotic resistance is a global crisis, targeting those who are already vulnerable and claiming over 1 million lives each year. But an LSU discovery is changing the game. Our unique biotech starves bacteria, stops growth, and gives the body a chance to heal. Because behind every breakthrough is a life worth saving.
That's a wrap on this week's Brian Kelly press conference, presented by the Louisiana Farm Bureau Federation. For last-minute news and notes, once again, here is Chris Blair.
Overall, pretty good news on the injury front coming out of the 20-10 win over South Carolina this past weekend, as Coach Brian Kelly alluded to. Looks like, again, it'd be great to get Aaron Anderson back out there as a wideout. The other defensive players and offensive linemen slowly getting back to speed, but we may have an opportunity come this Saturday to get most, if not everybody, back out there at closer to 100%. Again, it was announced earlier today by the SEC and ESPN and ABC. Next week's game, a week from this Saturday, will be LSU and Texas A&M at Tiger Stadium with a kickoff around 6:30. That one televised on ABC. This coming weekend, 11 a.m. We'll get it started at 9 o'clock with LSU Game Day. Marlon Favorite, Brandon Taylor, Hunt Palmer will get the day started for us. Jacob Hester, Gordy Rush will join me from Vanderbilt with kickoff again set for just after 11 a.m. Hope you'll come out this coming Thursday. Another edition of the Brian Kelly Show, live from TJ Ribs. Starts at 7 o'clock. Come out, have dinner with us, listen to the Top Tiger discuss the very latest as they head in to take on the Commodores. Again, if you can't make it out, you can tune in all over the state here on the network and, of course, streaming for free on the LSU Sports mobile app and lsusports.net. That'll wrap it up for this week. My thanks to Gordy Rush. We thank you for joining us. We'll be back here next Monday for the Brian Kelly press conference.
This has been the Brian Kelly Press Conference, presented by the Louisiana Farm Bureau Federation. For the very latest on LSU Fighting Tiger football, follow the Tigers on social at LSU Football and at lsusports.net.